right. So if I can, I'll go ahead and I'll give a brief instructions for this evening. This is a virtual meeting of the Park and Recreation Committee of Newtown Township. We are taking public comment one of 4 ways this evening. You could have dropped a public comment off in the blue drop box at the front of the building prior to the meeting. I have checked that blue drop off box and there was no public comment in the box. During the meeting, you can raise your hand and be recognized. You can do that either through your Zoom screen or by phone. There's a ability to do that on the phone. If by chance you have trouble doing either one of those, I think mostly since we've promoted everybody, I would think that's going to be able to be done. But if by chance something's difficult, if you just let us know, we will try to recognize you. You can always send a comment to publiccomment@newtowntownship.org. Again, that's publiccomment@newtowntownship.org, and that will be monitored throughout the evening. Mr. Pollack, I will turn it back over to you.
Okay, thank you. I asked Jonathan to take minutes starting tonight. We got away from it during Zoom just because it became impossible to do everything. So we dropped minutes, but the other committees are having minutes. So I thought we should probably join them doing that starting tonight. So Jonathan's going to do that. So Jonathan, if you need us to slow down or any information, just let us know. So the Greer Park Master Plan, the phasing. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Before you take off, just for the record, I know you're here, Jonathan's here, Dr. Foy is here, Dr. Potstick is here, and Peter's here. So your entire committee is here.
Okay, great. Thank you. So Greer Park Master Plan is nearly complete. There's going to be one more public meeting. I think Steve is trying to figure out how to do that best right now. And the phasing plan came through this afternoon. I haven't really had a chance to look at it. I'm sure Steve hasn't either, but it should be done relatively soon.
Yep. I did take a quick look at it, Wade. The one thing I did notice is that the playground was behind. However, we're getting down to the playground in regards to phasing. I may recommend that we move the playground up. I think the playground would get a lot of use if we had it available sooner. So that may be one of the recommendations that I make.
Okay. And the bocce ball court, I think that we'll be able to get that done in July sometime. I had Cindy Mahalo take a look at it herself, and we're going to put in a bioswale where the water drains off of the court, and then put some trees on top of that that will absorb that water. It shouldn't be too much water. Most of the water that goes through the drainage system gets drained into the earth. So this is a small amount, but it still should be required. Otherwise, there's more maintenance on George if we don't do this. So I'm thinking July sometime. And so I was going to advertise on social media for trees for that, Steve. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
The one thing I would be careful about there, though, Wade, is that area is already, like, just outside of the fence area is pretty treed. And so it'll be nice to keep it kind of shaded, but you don't want it to have, we want to be careful what kind of trees we put in related to having droppings on the court itself.
Okay. And shade, I don't know that we want a whole lot more shade in there as well. I was thinking some kind of medium tree that would suck up water, some swampy. I'm not sure. I was hoping Steve Mastardi could tell us what.
Yeah, we may want to look at something more like a shrub, if that's what we're looking for. There's some shrubs that are really good at drinking water. So.
Okay. maybe even something evergreen that wouldn't drop leaves.
Yeah.
Okay. And the paint scheme for the basketball court, George and I met with the teacher and the paint company that does all the courts, and he was okay with having multiple colors. They're going to have to use spray paint, different kinds of paint for this project. We did ask about adding the insignia. That would be a lot of work on the gentleman, the young man who did the design itself. He would have to bring that in somehow and incorporate it into this digital format that he uses. So he seemed to think that, or the teacher seemed to think that would be a lot of work on him. She didn't want to do that. They're having finals, and it would also probably add 3/4 of a day to the project. So we are going to look at maybe doing a mural somewhere else with the insignia in the town with Karen the art teacher in charge of this. So, and timing on this is going to be reliant on COVID restrictions. So the teacher is going to bring in the students most likely after the school year to do the project. We're still waiting on guidance from the state. And the bathroom mural is, I ended up going there. George and I visited the park earlier in the day. We found the baby turtle crawling in a field. So I picked it up, put it in a box with some grass. I had a box in my car, took it home, identified it. Mike McGraw, the biologist from Greer Park, identified it. It was a painted turtle. So I took it back to the park once I knew what it was, because I thought it might have been a bog turtle. And when I got there, the teachers were there putting up the artwork on the walls, and it was just really nice stuff. I mean, they put more work into this than I thought, and apparently there's going to be 30 to 40 portraits on the wall. They have some of the students are working on patterns to put behind the portraits that represent feelings of welcome. And then other kids are working on words to paint on the wall that welcome people to the park. So it's really an amazing project. They've really done a lot of work. I didn't realize how big it had become for the school district. So should be special.
Nice.
And that's going to be in June, I believe. So we're still trying to figure out how to paint it. The teachers, there were 4 of them, they're willing to help paint it on the wall. And then the water bottle filling station, we're still on hold with that. The bat boxes, I was able to get the concrete and all the materials for that. The hardware, it's all industrial grade stainless steel approved hardware over and above what we would need. And so are the galvanized pole that Sheila's husband Jeff got for us. My neighbor's going to attach the houses to the poles, and then we're going to put 3 or 4 in Brookside and 1 or 2 in Newby Park. And the concert, that's going well. I think there's a $300 shortfall. Paul, are you on, Paul?
Paul, you're muted.
So you know what? We have just enough money. We just have 1,300, but nothing more.
Oh, okay. All
So
right, then that's all we needed.
all right. So we're good.
Yes. I'm sorry. I thought there was a shortfall.
I did too, but I haven't opened that file folder for over a year. So I started going through it, and there it was. So we're good.
Good. So George and I went and reviewed the stage, and for social distance purposes, we wanted to try and put 2 smaller stages on the side. The sound man finally got back to me today. He seems to think that he can fit some of the musicians inside the gazebo and himself, and have the rest of the band on the stage. So we might not need the side stages. He might need some spots yellow taped off for speakers or something like that. So and everything else seems to be good. The posters in. I think Paul is having posters made from Pegasus. I think 40. We'll put in some shops.
Right. So Wade, can I make a comment?
Yes, please.
So the first farmers market is going to be Friday, June 4th. And there's always going to be a rotating community table. And originally I had that community table reserved for the business association, but they don't have anything special to talk about. But Parks and Rec does, because Parks and Rec is having the concert on June 12th. So I'm going to push the business association to some later date, like in July. And what I'm offering is the community table at the farmers market to be, that would have a poster, and it could really, really push the concert, push the awareness for the concert. It needs a couple of people. It doesn't have to be, it's from 3 to 6 p.m., but you don't have to stay the entire, I mean, if we had a couple people, if we had somebody that did it from 3 to 4:30, somebody that did it 4:30 to 6, that'd be nice. Jonathan's going to be there anyway. I'm going to be there anyway, but it's just nice to have people who can, press the flash, explain what Parks and Rec is doing. Maybe you want to have something else, Wade, I don't know. It could be a little diagram of trails, or it could be anything about the Greer Park. It could be anything you guys want, but this is our chance. I think we're going to have a pretty good crowd. And, and I think we might even have first time people are very excited and they're kind of curious. So we might get a lot of tire kickers, which is quite fine. That's good.
And if you guys can add yoga in the park class to that event, so we can promote that the same thing. And if you can get me some of those flyers, Paul, we can kind of distribute them at the yoga classes, because they start May 12th.
May 12th. So the posters I'm getting, Sheila, are really destined to go inside. We're gonna take them around, Wade and I, or anybody else that wants to go around to different stores and ask them to put them up on their in their windows with Scotch tape, perhaps Dunwoody, and
Post office, Panera Bread, all those places. Yeah.
So, I mean, they're gonna measure 11 by 17. That's a pretty big. Now, if you want me to get something smaller, Sheila, then you should tell me what's the ideal size.
Okay.
And I'll try to do it.
I can send the JPEG out of the poster, and you can just print a regular, 8 by 11 paper and hand that out at yoga and at the farmers market.
And if you want it, is it color?
Yes.
If you want that, just let me know. Depending on how many you want to do, we can probably do some here at the Township building and save some money.
That'd be great. Nice offer.
So I will be there at the farmers market if anyone else wants to go on June 4th.
Jonathan's going to be there as well, right, Jonathan? And you and I'm going to be there for sure.
I'll be there too.
Yeah, and you can put me down, Wade. I'll help out with that, buddy.
Okay, great.
And Bill and Sheila.
I may not be there at the beginning, but I'll definitely be there, like maybe 4, something like that.
Okay, that's great. And Jonathan, that helps me a great deal. Thank you.
And Bill, you said you would show up too?
Yep, I'll show up.
Okay.
Are you wanting something to hand out at that time, or you just want the poster on the table?
I think we'll just put the poster on the table, and I'll print out whatever I need here from home. As far as the events go, I was going to do the maps of the township that have the parks highlighted. That map that shows the parks on it in dark green.
Well, just let me know. I mean, we're more than happy to help you with those things.
Okay.
And use our ink on that, right? Because I know that particularly in color that gets expensive, and we can do it for about 8 cents, 9 cents a copy here, and so that's cheaper than you can. That's cheaper than you can probably do it at home, and it's also cheaper probably than you can take it someplace and have it.
Okay.
That's very generous, Steve. Would it be valuable to have a Greer Park update at the table for members of Parks and Rec to explain to people saying, hey, what's going on? What's going on new? And we could say, well, this is about to happen and that's going to happen. And the playground might be, you know, coming sooner than we thought. And we have, by that time, we will have the American Bloom seed garden planted, and that's going to be right at the Greer Park sign. And that's going to be roughly a 30 by 20 foot area where we're going to dig up the grass and plant all these seeds. And we're doing that on May 22nd, I think. And so right around there, something might be popping around, you know.
Has the board
30 by 20?
has the board determined whether it's a B plan or the C plan?
The board has
Yes.
determined that we are going to basically kick that decision down the road at the moment. You know, what we're doing is we're going forward. We think both plans are really close.
They are.
And so for moving forward to get it, it's actually being presented as two options. And then when we go into engineering, we'll make the final decision when we start doing the engineering to determine what we really need and what we get feedback on people who are using the park.
What I'm thinking is that if we could have a picture of B and C maybe on the same sheet, that would be something that would be an option for talking at the table.
Yep. we can
And
do
a
that.
picture's worth, as you know, many words.
Yep, we can do that.
I think that might be a good handout, Wade.
I do too. I also think the bocce ball. I mean, this is the time to really strut our stuff and let people know what we're doing. You know, Wade, what is being done and is programmed to be done in the near future. I mean, I think if there's a design of the bocce ball court or something like that, I think we should have that.
All right, well, I will write something up for Greer Park. I'll send it to Steve first just to make sure it's okay with the township. I don't want to stir up anything we don't need.
I happen to agree with Bill that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and rather than have many words, if we could have diagrams and you know, what do you call it, when the presentations were made to the public, they held up things. And that's what I mean, I don't know where that stuff sits, but I would like to have that available at the community table.
Wade, do you think it would be helpful if we had an easel? You know, remember I have those 11 by 17 already printed? We can incorporate them, put the two signs of both Greer Park. We can put up the yoga in the class and we can do the concert. So if you have an easel, or we can do, you know, those backboards at the table, if you don't have anything to post on.
We do have some easels and we have some backboards here.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, this is something, you know, particularly since this is Park and Rec, you know, we'll look at, I'll have to see what our ink stability is in our large format printer, but we can probably print, you know, if it's like one or two, we can probably print that pretty inexpensively and get that.
Oh, I already have, Steve, I already have 11 by 17 of both of the B and C options.
Well, I'm thinking of something that would be like fill a big piece on an easel, like somebody could walk by and see.
Okay.
Like if we really say the picture's worth 1,000 words, let the picture be big enough to say all 1,000 words.
Right. Well, if you're going to do that, do you want to have it laminated so that way we can eventually put it at Greer Park if you think that would suit? Because that would be part of the fundraising efforts as well.
Yeah, I don't know that I have anything that I could laminate anything that big, but we can look.
So I'm happy to take it afterwards, Sheila, to the US, you know, the UPS store. That's Doug Dietz here in town. And they advertise lamination. I don't know how big it's going to be, but I'm happy to shop it and see if we could get it laminated.
That'd be great.
Staples is a good place to go as well.
Yep.
Yeah. What I don't know is, can they laminate, you know, that big of size? Or maybe what I need to find out, Paul, you said it was, who was it?
His name is Doug Dietz. He's the manager at UPS.
I'll reach out to Doug and see what's the largest he can do.
Okay.
So we won't have our next meeting before before that event. So I'll just get everything together. If I need anyone's help, I'll let them know. And then whatever I have, I'll try and send out before that Friday.
Sounds good.
Hey, I just measured that big map I had of the township, and that was 36 inches wide. I got that laminated over at Staples.
Okay,
So they do big, wide things.
good. Because that's as wide as I can print anyhow.
Oh, all right, 36. That's a good printer.
That's good.
Just wondering if there was any plans to kind of, now that we know Parks and Rec will have the table, or maybe we're waiting on confirmation, but
No, it's confirmed. You got it.
Beautiful. Just wondering if there was going to be any kind of posting, maybe on like the Newtown Square Facebook page, or just to let people know that Parks and Rec will be at the table in case anyone has questions, or maybe that might encourage a few people just to come and check it out if they were just kind of curious about what's going on with Greer, or any of the other.
Oh, I think that's a nice idea. And I
Yeah.
think we could do bullet points of yoga in the park, a concert in the park, Bocce in September, or whenever you think it's going to be, somewhere out in the future. I think that's a cool idea.
And,
Yes.
and don't forget Discmania.
And Discmania.
So if somebody wants to put something together, just remember, obviously, Facebook, you want to keep it relatively factual but short. People don't read it very long. So if somebody wants to send that to me, I'll get it posted on our Facebook page. And then we can put it up on the township website as well under upcoming events and, communications.
Steve, you were going to get back to me with Kathy being gone. Every week I have to do an update on the class and the yoga in the park. So Kathy's gone now. So should I just deal with Nick? Because that's going to be a weekly posting, and I give him new content on Monday that has to go out for that week, or Friday. So just let me know who, because when I give them the content, it's going to go out. It's going to be posted by Friday for the following Wednesday night's class. So
All
is
right,
it Nick?
let me find out. I'm not sure who's doing Facebook
Okay.
for the township right now with Kathy gone. That's one of those areas that we're a little deficient in.
Okay, and I did ask Leonard to help back us up with some, because I need this being promoted on both ends. So I asked him if he could also supplement whatever the township's doing for him to share as well. So he will do that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm actually sending it to Leonard, and we're sharing his because it's easier.
Well, the only thing is, I do want it to come out on the Newtown. See, when I share it,
Yeah,
it
no,
used
I
to
know.
be Kathy would make it and I would share it. So it
Yeah.
was just because it came content approved.
Yep, no, I agree. We need to do that.
Wade, are you ready to roll into yoga in the park? Because I have a couple things on the signage issues on that.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so we did talk before, what the township has the posting sign for the Pike, the large one that's behind, I guess it's in the maintenance building. Do you still have that?
Digital sign.
Is it the digital, or is it I thought it was like the old school letter formation.
I think
You
it's
have
old school digital.
Yeah. Oh, it's
I
the
think
old-
we have a digital sign. I don't know if we have any other kind of sign.
Okay, so we were trying to get that to promote, because classes start next Wednesday night, May 12th. So we wanted to get the sign posted on the Pike.
Where
And
do
if
you
we
want it?
We were at Drexel Lodge in front of, where the fence are in between the trees, so that it's not blocking the road, but it's close enough. And in addition to that, if that sign can go up ASAP, that'd be great. We were also looking to maybe have a internal, these are like the lawn signs that are like $40 that you kind of post in, and we put it near the pavilion just so that way every week, since we are doing it from May 12th to September 1st, just so we have a visual, would the township be okay if I go ahead and get that? It should be about $40.
Let me work through George. I don't know where, like, I have to see where our money is. I don't,
Okay.
on this one, I don't know. I mean, I
Okay.
don't think it's a problem. I just need to know where we're going to take it from.
And what we were just doing is having the sign by the pavilion, and it's one of those inexpensive, basically free yoga in the park. It's going to be, here Wednesday, 5:30 to 6:30, compliments of Newtown Township Parks and Recreation, sponsored by Jolly Llama.
Yeah, so I need two things from you, Sheila. I need what you would want on the sign, like that if the $40, it doesn't matter how much we put on the sign, that's fine. I'll know what that is. I'll talk to George about that. And then the second thing is what you want on the electronic sign. Remember, less is more on
Okay.
electronic signs. It's like if you get too much, people can't see them because it doesn't move through fast enough for them to see them.
Okay.
So, maybe yoga in the park and the date would be all that we could really get that people would see every time they drove by.
And then just free. And then what we could also do is put it for the first, 2 or 3 weeks, but then we'd want to start converting over by that June 1st to the concert.
Yeah, here's the thing. We use that sign for lots of things.
Oh,
So let me see. I mean, it may be that it's there for a week,
okay.
and then we'll have to bring it back in for a week. I don't know that
Okay.
it'll stay there all year because we use that sign almost every day.
Okay, no worries. Whatever works, we can accommodate around.
Okay. Well,
but then-
we'll work with you.
But then, Jonathan, before, did you get those lawn signs? Remember how you did it before for the concert? Are we going to do that again?
I can. Those signs are kind of beat up at this point, but
So, Steve, Jonathan's been paying for this out of his own money. And I think we should be able to, how much is that? Those are the 5 signs that say free concert in the park and then the date and blah, blah, blah. It goes like that, right? It's kind of like Vermicelli.
right.
So,
Yeah,
But if we have the electronic sign flashing out front, that might be good enough to replace that. I don't know.
Well, let me know what the cost is. I mean, look, we've got some money. I just don't want to commit until I talk to George because I'm taking out of his budget. And so I try to respect his budget, and I commit enough things out of his budget over time. I just like to let him know before we make a decision. And he may say he wants it coming out of this line item versus that line item. So
Well,
if you let,
He'll learn the lesson that he has to attend the meeting otherwise.
well, he
He's
was going to be here tonight and I wasn't, but he had something come up that he had to be at.
Jonathan,
Okay.
can you give us a quote of how much those signs cost?
yeah, they're about say $25 each.
Okay.
There were
Just-
5 of them, right?
Yeah, and
Just-
the ones that really just need to be replaced are the one that has a date, and sometimes we change the time. So
Yeah, Jonathan, just get me like what it would take to get those signs redone and let
Okay.
us know, and we'll work on pulling the funds together for that. It's not that we don't have money. I just have to figure out where. That's all.
Right. And Steve, just to tailgate onto what Sheila was saying, if the concert is on, I'm a little bit confused here. It's on June 12th.
Yeah.
So what would be very valuable, if we only can have that digital sign a little bit, what would be very valuable is to have it like from June 4th on, or June 5th or something like that. Like the week before the concert, that would be most valuable. Do you all agree?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
And when we start and we kick off yoga, starting the week of kicking off yoga as well. I mean,
Yeah, like I said, I don't know it'll be the whole week, but we
Okay.
will get it out there to get some of that going. So we got June 12th, and remind me, yoga was the
May 12th.
May-
It's
May
next
12th.
Wednesday night. Yep. And we were kind of phasing into the first class because until what's happening with the CDC, we wanted to kind of make sure that we weren't getting into a capacity issue. And we
Yeah.
know right now we're going to be staying within that 25 max, but we understand that, we're going to continue to do our CDC guidelines, follow our distance, and, do everything we can for yoga in the park, making sure that we followed, like we did last year, the rules. And I'll talk with George again, same thing, 15 feet apart and everything. We're going to assume the worst case scenario, even though things are positively trending, we're going to be consistent and continue following the guidelines.
Yeah, I do think the governor's announcement, I think it was yesterday, we were going to evaluate what that looks like. The biggest challenge we have is, I assume when people are doing yoga, they don't want to be wearing a mask. And so
they were very good last year. Everybody wore, we just said, this is what we have to do, but
yeah,
we'll do whatever the CDC guidelines are, we'll follow it.
Yeah, we're gonna follow CDC guidelines and what the governor's saying. So we'll watch that.
But I must tell you that we are wearing masks for yoga when we do it at Ellis Athletic Center indoors. Outdoors, no mask. Indoors, mask.
Yeah, that's why I was saying outside, I could see people saying, I'd really like to be without. And so I might keep a further distance, even though the governor's guidelines are allowing a little bit closer. But if we allow no mask, then maybe we'll keep a further distance.
Yeah, Steve, last year we were 15 feet apart. That was.
Yeah, that's plenty. I'm thinking we might be able to move that in a little bit as the summer goes along, is what I'm saying.
All right, and the DCVA creek cleanups, they went very well. Mike Russo and Tina Roberts Lightcap were there. We did a lot at Brookside. It was, or at Greer. It was shocking how much stuff came out of there.
Yeah, that was a lot, I heard.
And so partnerships. So I was going to start with, I'm going to write a letter to the superintendent explaining how well the murals went, and ask if there's any opportunity for educational, biological, any kind of science opportunities at Greer Park, because if everything goes right, not this coming fall, but the following fall, we should be able to have students visit the park if we want to go in that direction. And I was just going to reach out to her and ask her, if you have any ideas, let us know. We would love to form partnerships with your teachers. And if you guys have any ideas,
so every end of May, the teacher's name is Bob Specca, SPECA, and he comes down here with 3 buses of Marple Newtown's students, and they work in Crum Creek, and they divide the students into 3 different panels, and some of them do physical, and then some of them do biological measurements of the creek, and then some of them do chemistry. And then after 20 or 30 minutes of that, then they rotate and do another, the biological group becomes chemistry, and the chemistry becomes physical, and so on. And what they measure is the velocity, the erosion. Then they take water samples and they look for invertebrates that are sort of living microscopically in the water.
What park is that, Paul?
This is Crum Creek. I mean, they're measuring and then they write this huge exhaustive report about the condition of Crum Creek, and it's really well done, and it's kind of fascinating. And I mean, I'm not saying that the Fox's Run is equal to Crum Creek, but you're absolutely on the right track, Wade, with thinking something similar might happen in Greer.
I was thinking younger children. I know we had asked Bill to occasional things, but after COVID, everything's fallen apart. So I thought this might be an opportunity.
Actually, I think if we approach the science teachers in the elementary schools, they in other parks and other areas have been very receptive for the idea of bringing students for a half day or several hours so they can instruct them about ecology and all of the relative biologic issues that relate to the park. And so I think there's real opportunity there.
I agree. And, you know, especially because the new Greer Park is going to be taking on the challenges of the older Greer Park, and what to do about soil that's kind of always moist and wet. I mean, that's sort of going to be interesting. And these kids could, you know, could take that home and tell their parents, you know, this is what we should do.
Well, the other thing is my vision is that it would be a sort of regular occurrence throughout the season, the warm portion of the season, at least as it, you know, dovetails with the school year, and the students would go on a regular basis, not a one-time thing. Now, the Crum Creek thing seems like a wonderful thing, but it's a one-off. And so what I'd like to see is students there every week or every 2 weeks or whatever. And that would create a great deal of visibility, because Paul's right. They would go home and talk to their parents about it.
So, you know, Bill, I don't mean to pour water on your idea, but I have the feeling that liability for taking schools off campus is quite something. And
Zoom call.
Well, if it's the teacher that takes them, I think it's a different story. I don't think we have much in the way of liability.
no, not our liability. It's from the school point of view. I mean, and it's expensive for them to get their buses going, and for them to get the teachers. You know, it's a school liability, not a township. But I mean,
well, we'll see.
But let's ask the question and see how far we can go. I think it's fine.
Maybe jumping off that idea, not necessarily make it like a school trip, because like you said, that might be a liability and take extra resources on the school's part. But maybe there's like an environmental committee or club that the schools might have that it would be less of a liability and more volunteering from the students. And maybe like Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts might be able to get involved.
Well, they do have an environmental club, Caitlin, and it's 53. The last time before COVID, they had 53 members in their environmental club, so it's big.
The other thing that could be a possibility would be to have summer camps there for kids. I don't know if the township runs summer camps or not.
They did it one time.
In Tredever and Easttown, they have summer camps for kids at Hilltop Park.
We used to do that, and through Marple Newtown Recreation, there are classes that are available, and they did do like a kid stop program where they'd have like a 9 to 11, but that's all run through Marple Newtown Recreation. So that wouldn't necessarily be a Parks and Rec, but we could check with Rich and Al to see if there's any programs that we could kind of supplement through.
Yeah, I would. That's what I was going to suggest. If we start doing some of these things, I just want to make sure we're going through Rich as well. So Rich E now is for the Marple Newtown Recreation group, and so we just want to make sure that we're not competing against what he's doing. But he's more than happy for us to supplement. He would work with us, and he would look at other programs if we're interested. He may even run the program through his group if we're interested.
And I know he does a Science Explorers program during the summer. So maybe, Steve, if we reach out to him, or I know I'll see him next Wednesday, but I'll mention it to him about that, because he does a variety of summer school programs for kids and summer camp opportunities. But like he does computer classes there, but he does Science Explorers, and a lot of those are at parks as well.
The other group that we might want to consider working with that does a tremendous job, particularly with the younger children, is the library. And they have some really excellent programs that they do, even some science programs that they look for locations to do. And particularly once we get a pavilion out at Greer Park, that may be an ideal location for them to do a summer science program out there through the library.
Wonderful.
Sounds good.
Well, I do have, I have a woman who, a neighbor who kind of would be a caricature, who we were trying to see if the Parks and Rec wanted to support an outdoor reading program, since the library is not open, but at parks. Is that something that Parks and Rec would be interested in, Wade and Steve?
You know, there's a person, Angela, I don't know her last name, but she's with the library.
Yes.
And I think that you need to ask the library first and see if she's, I wouldn't want to rain on her parade, so to speak. You know, like if she's going to stretch out, what we're talking about at the farmer's market is that she's going to put a quilt out on the grassy area right in front of the church. And she's going to sit on the floor together with the children. And if their parents want to sit there too, and they're going to read stories together. I think it's really, kind of cute. It's a very much of a throwback of the way life used to be, but it's good, but I just wouldn't want to say that we're going to import somebody before we've asked Angela.
Absolutely.
If she wants to do it, but it's a good idea.
She's really good at a lot of these different programs. We're bringing somebody in to do some of these different programs, and she normally has them going all the time, and even during the summer, even here in the building. And so it's just been a crazy time that we haven't had this.
I ran into
Wade, you're not legible. Yeah.
She was hanging sheets up.
Can anybody hear him?
No,
I can't, no.
Wait, there's something wrong with your audio.
It sounded like he was singing a song.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
That's
You were
good.
having
Yeah,
a-
there you go.
Sorry.
Wait, I thought you were having a stroke there, buddy. You were like echoing in slow mo.
Wade,
Oh, he was
in
playing
one of
guitar.
In one of your communications, you asked about, does anybody have any ideas for something in Brookside besides an obstacle course?
Oh, yes, I think that's down the bottom somewhere. So let me.
Well, somebody had recommended an obstacle course there, which sounds like a great idea. But I was thinking maybe something like a shower with water during the summertime where kids could sort of get themselves wet.
I don't know that there's.
Might be sort of fun.
I don't know that there's water available at Brookside.
I don't know either, but it was just a thought. I've seen a number of those types of things in parks where kids run in and out of water and whatever, and they just have one heck of a good time.
Everywhere I look, I'm seeing those things. And when I do research on parks, they're everywhere now. You're right. Extremely popular. And Joanne has been pushing them as well, but I don't know that it's something.
You would need like a concrete pad for that. Otherwise you have mud. But I've seen them down in Essington. There's one where there's a lot of spray things that kids can run through.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's developed horse systems. So the butterfly at the at the Meadow Preserve. A lot of people are pushing for this, and one thing we have to consider is this pop-up garden. Steve, we're going to accept these plants, the pop-up garden plants. The township's going to accept them and put them somewhere. Is that going to be the parks?
Well, I would assume it's going to be the parks. There might be some, looking at how much is there and how much we add to it over the summer, because we're looking at, I think we're actually looking maybe at having 2 pop-up parks going at the same time by the time it's all said and done. We may even put some here at the township building itself, but that's the plan.
Okay. So I didn't know whether maybe we could put some of those at the Meadow Preserve. The milkweed especially is something that Janet has really been an advocate for. I don't think it's going to harm anything. It's not an invasive species. It's native.
Yeah, my biggest concern would be, do we have an area that we can get cleared off so that it doesn't get taken over by what is invasive? And that would be my biggest concern. But we should try.
Okay.
is everyone familiar about what's the pop-up garden is? Caitlin, do you and Bill, are you familiar with it? Because I know Paul and Wade and everyone, are you guys?
Not me, no.
And Caitlin?
I have no
Yeah.
idea.
I
Okay.
think, yeah, if you
Okay,
want to.
so the Bird Town and part of the VA Valley Forge Audubon and PA Audubon, and with the support of the township with Mastardies and so many of Parks and Rec and Newtown Square and Bloom, we're providing a pop-up garden at the township, which it's opening on Saturday morning at 11 o'clock. And it's beautiful native plants. And the focus is really to understand the importance of native plants in terms of our biodiversity and really educating our community. So we've created this gorgeous garden that you walk into and you can see what these plants are look like, but we also provide signage to let you know what each plant will be doing and how to form either clusters or drifts or different techniques in landscaping, and all of them have environmental impacts. That garden is going to be moved to the Gather in the Circle and provide a pop-up park, if you will, on St. Albans Circle, and that'll be May 15th. So it's from May 8th to the 15th at the Township Building, May 15th to June 1st or 2nd, I believe, Paul, at the St. Albans Circle.
It's
And
till
that-
May 30th for sure, and we're in negotiation to see if we can get it extended.
Right, and the pop-up park then becomes part of the bigger picture, which is the Gather in the Circle, and that is the community development building that they're bringing on. Paul, do you want to kind of speak about that?
So Gather in the Circle is a new committee, and it's spearheaded by Linda McIsaac, who moved to England for a period of time, but will be coming back. And in her absence, Pam Purser and I are the co-chairs. And what we're dedicated to doing is to trying to reimagine what St. Albans Circle could be if it had less speedy traffic, more pedestrian foot traffic, and if it was more, more shopping friendly, and if it sort of extended itself. And to that end, there's 3 projects planned for 2021. One of them is the farmers market, and that's going to start on June 4th. And then the other one, as Sheila has said, is the May 15th, the pop-up garden and park. And that's going to be in the front lawn of Remax. And they've been very kind. I mean, we're going to take probably 50 feet by 17 feet, their entire frontage. We've already planted zinnias in their flower beds that go right up to the building. We did that last weekend. And then John Custer has grown some very tall Mexican sunflowers as well as canis, and that's going to go inside the circle so that the circle is going to have sort of an unusually dramatic effect this year with very tall floral designs. And then it's going to have the pop-up garden in front of Remax. That's only for 2 to 3 weeks. And then it goes away. And it may reappear again when the third project, which is traffic calming, starts to be introduced. And traffic calming would be, that would take the, it would be like bales of hay or bollards or something to maybe narrow it. And again, this is all temporary. This is just to see how residents react to all of this stuff. All of these 3 initiatives are going to be surveyed, and we're going to use data points to figure out, do people really like this? Do they want this? Or is this something that they could, they sort of shrug off and say, thank you, but no thank you. So so that's the plan, so to speak, for Gather in the Circle. And we need help on May 15th when we install the pop-up garden in front of Remax. So if you have time and you could be at 10 o'clock in the morning in front of Remax, that would be very handy on May 15th.
All right, so I think we covered the butterfly garden, the farmer's market, the Greer Park temporary garden. Steve, just to let you know, we had originally looked at Delmont's property, but after discussing it with a few folks, we thought it would be best if we put it inside the park and used the sign in the background. This is some kind of contest that's going on nationwide. We're entered in one of 20 communities nationwide, so we think that'll help us with the contest. We're trying to get the community to help us water the garden throughout the year Delmont's going to let us, and we're going to ask, it's going to be disturbed, but, you know, I assume that we'll be breaking ground next year. So I don't think it's going to, you know, permanently damage anything anyway. But the fact that it's only going to be, you know, 6 months before we start breaking ground after this garden.
Are all the seeds annuals?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, it's a temporary. It's a temporary one season, and then it's done. We'll cover it back over and seed it.
Okay.
This is part of the American in Bloom contest. So it's a really big thing because they provided the seeds and they want to see it as a community effort and development program. So Janet will be documenting that and sharing the results with them. So it is a great opportunity for American in Bloom, Newtown Square in Bloom.
Hey, Caitlin, do you think that we'll get support out of the neighbors there? I haven't run anything on social media yet.
Yeah, I do. I think that I think the neighbors will be happy to kind of take over a shift and look after. And yeah, I don't think that'll be a problem.
All right. All right. So I think that's going to go on. We planned May 22nd, as long as Steve, you're okay with it and George is okay with it.
Yeah, you know, like I said, my biggest obvious concern would be that we have raw ground left at the end of the season, and then it becomes an erosion piece. But as long as we control that, I'm fine.
So yeah, we'll take care of that. We'll remove everything that's dead and reseed and put hay or whatever it is you're supposed to put down.
Okay.
You know, one of them's bad and the other not. And then we have an Eagle Scout project. Luke Impriano reached out to us and wants to do an Eagle Scout project. It is his major project. I spoke with George today, and we're kind of leaning toward having him put some trees in across from Gable Park in that smaller section that Bruce and Cindy were planning to put in anyway. And that would take place either in June or July is his time frame for doing that. I don't know if anyone else had a chance to think of anything that we might be able to use or offered it, Luke. And if not, well, I'll just offer that to him.
What was it that you were going to offer to him? To
plant like 10 trees, you know, across from the basketball courts at the Township building. There's that smaller park area.
Was he saying that, or was he saying 10 trees, another 10 trees on Goshen Trail?
He said either one of those.
Yeah, I think that the project across the street is actually planting, I want to say it's like 150 trees.
That's 200. The aqua program you announced last week, you said was 200.
Yeah, 200. Okay, so that's a but they're all smaller. They're real small trees, and so I think it was either or. It was either 10 of those or leading, and it may be a community event that he would lead. My understanding is this particular scout's a little quiet, and so he may find the 15, 20 of our folks showing up may be a little more than he can handle, but or what that he wants to handle. And yeah, I think we were looking at two separate projects. One would be the 10 trees along Goshen Trail that are more about the size of what we planted, which are about 8 to 10 feet in height. And then the other would be more of these, you know, I guess about foot high. Yeah.
Yeah, like the plugs.
Yeah.
All right, so these are they're bigger boys, so I think the trail thing might be better then.
Yeah. Well, and my thought is that for an Eagle Scout project, he can either lead other scouts or he can lead community volunteers. And so either one would be a good opportunity for him. I just know we're a rambunctious group of volunteers, and so we get going. And so, but you know, but we need leadership for both. And so if somebody's willing to take that on, that's great.
Okay, I'll call him tomorrow. And then
he had mentioned Brookside. You had mentioned Brookside here in the
That's what he had interest in. I guess he lives in our neighborhood here. I'm not sure.
But we
where
don't
he's
really
from.
have anything for him there then. So it would be either Goshen Trail or across from the township building.
Yeah, for right now, I mean, there are some projects I think we're going to have, but I think they're another year out. And so if he's wanting to do something really soon, I think that these are the two best options.
Okay. And as far as funding goes, budget requests, Steve, when is our drop dead to have something in?
For next year, for 2022? Yeah. So we're going to have a meeting with the board on We're going to have a meeting with the board on May 17th, which is next Monday, not next Monday, but the Monday after, to start getting the board's input and direction. And then from that, we will share that with each one of the committees. So probably in early June, remember you had talked with Bruce about starting to have a group that would be like a joint group of different committees that are working on different projects in town. So I'm going to set that up for the early part of June. And when we do that, we will talk about the budget cycle at that point. And so that every one of the groups kind of knows like what the expectation is and what we can do. Okay.
So is there a catalog that George uses that products come from? Or is there a website?
Well, it depends. Like there are like Uniline and some other catalogs like that we might use as just if we just want a one-off of something.
Yes.
But if we start purchasing, 10 or 15 of something, we sometimes go a different direction. And we look for a state contract to do that, because sometimes the price starts getting up into the level that we need a state contract value. And if we've already had it bid by going through state contract, it's easier. Okay.
So I was just thinking if we could recommend, I don't know whether Caitlin, I don't know if you'd want to take on the obstacle course thing. We just need to get some kind of rough order of magnitude estimate together for a budget request, if it's $2,000, whatever that is. So if we could just get a rough estimate of what we think we would want to put there and what that would cost. And if George has some place where we can go to do the research to find those costs, it would help us with the budget request.
Yeah. That's always, that we may need to talk to a group that does those kind of things, just because it's a lot of one-offs. You're probably not getting 10 chin-up bars, right? You're probably getting one chin-up bar, maybe two, depending on how you're setting it up. And so it's a little different way we would go at that than some ways. But we're looking at a whole process, that we're looking at a whole project. It's a bunch of little one-offs that you put into create basically the obstacle course. And so let me work with George, but also let me see if there's not something on the state level that'll help us.
Yeah, and Caitlin, if you're looking onto that, check out DCNR, and because why reinvent the wheel? They already have some of those programs, so kind of contact them and see what they have, because at the state parks they have some of those obstacle courts, and because we have other issues we have to be aware of, ADA and all the other issues. So when in doubt, always check with DCNR first to see what they have available to make our life easier.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And Caitlin, if you need any help with that, just reach out to George or I. We'll be glad to help you with that.
Awesome. Thank you. I think it was the last meeting when we were talking about Brookside Park and some additions. Sheila had mentioned maybe adding like a shade to the park. And I just wanted to bring that up because I thought it was a great idea, especially if we're thinking about budgets for next year, just kind of revisit that topic, just because there's really not a lot of shade specifically over the playground area at Brookside.
Yep. We're actually looking at some shade opportunities even around the township building for this year that might be able, that we wouldn't really necessarily need going into next year, because I'm hoping that next year when we're having this conversation that we all talk about COVID like it was something in the long time past. If we're looking at 2022, we may be able to move some of those things that we're going to use here to there. So that we'll work on that together as we go down that road. I know the library may be doing some of them, but if the township does, then it may be something that we can say we're going to take and just move this from here down to there at that point.
Oh, nice. And Kate, then I'll send you whatever I have. I've done some research. So I'll send you whatever I found so far.
Thanks, Wade.
Sure. And we mentioned the pop-up garden. Can we have a meeting June at like Drexel Lodge Park at the picnic tables if we're socially distanced and wear masks or whatever we have to do? I don't know what. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, the only thing I have to figure out is if we're going to do that, Wade, I need to advertise separately because everything's being advertised as a virtual meeting right now. So if we're going to meet in person because it's public, I have to be able to do that. So if you're going to do that, I just need to know enough in advance so that we can properly advertise. And then
well, how about we shoot for July then? Because then restrictions might loosen up and our plates aren't quite as full.
I actually think with what the governor has announced this week, I mean, I think we have there's a fair amount of loosening up. The only thing that would be, we would still have to wear masks, but I think we could do that.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's up to you. I'm happy to push it off to July. I just know sometimes July can start to get pretty hot, you know, if who knows?
Right.
Last week we were having really nice warm weather. This week we're having below average weather. So I could say that in July could be like the coldest day of the year. So I don't know.
And so there was a bee conservancy nationwide that is offering bee boxes. So I entered us to get a bee box and we won one. So it's coming to my house. It'll be here this week. It's like 14 by 14 by 14. And it just needs to go on a post. It has cardboard tubes in it with trays. You change the trays or the tubes every year. And what I want to do is create a sign that explains what it does and what the proper technique is to build a bee box at home if you chose to do one with instructions. And then post that with the box.
Where are you hoping to do this?
Drexel Lodge, like maybe next to the butterfly garden, it would probably work.
Okay.
Wait, did you want to put this into remember the Pollinator Combined Club, which would be EAC, Parks and Rec, and all of those organizations together?
Well,
do you want to?
I don't know. I mean, we need a location for it, so I don't. And I'm sure that members from those committees will all join with us to do that.
Well, have we thought about that at all at the Meadow Preserve?
Yeah, that would work. Yeah.
And being a person who's allergic to bees, I'm always careful about how close we put bees to places where people are.
These are non-stinging bees, I believe. These are all non-stinging leaf cutters.
I was told a bee didn't sting once before, and it was an exciting event.
The bee didn't cooperate.
Lori, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question about the Meadow Preserve and the butterfly garden. I would be very interested in helping to promote that, and I'm not sure I understood the discussion about that. Is that something that is on the back burner right now because you don't know where to put it, or I'm not sure how that was concluded?
I don't think we made 100% conclusion. I think that one of the things that we are talking about, I think that we were talking about, was that we have this pop-up garden, and Sheila, you may know, I would guess there's probably at least 60 plants in that?
Oh,
70 plants?
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of plants, and a lot of them are pollinators. They were picked specifically for that reason. And so that would be it really would be a consideration to move those to that location. I don't know that we put all of them in one place. We may. There's a couple trees, and we may choose to pull the trees out, but I don't know. We'd have to see. But that would be a good opportunity. Lori, remind me, you live right there by that area. Is that correct?
Yes, we live, we're right adjacent to the Meadow Preserve. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd be very interested in whatever you're doing to promote the meadow. And I saw that came up. I had contacted Wade about it. When and if that's ready to go, it'd be something I'd be interested in helping with.
Sure. And I would think that, and my initial thought is it would be ideal if we could take and put the bee box right next to where we plant all the pollinators. It would seem to make sense to me, but I don't know. Somebody may tell me that's not the best way to do that, but that was, if we did all of that at one time, we could actually take what we've done and kind of make it a full kind of presentation when we move it out to that location.
So if I'm understanding it, and Sheila, I think you talked about it, it would be in at the Circle. St. Albans is where it's being introduced, and then it would be moved from there. Is that correct?
No, the pop-up garden is at the Township building starting Saturday, and that'll be from May 8th to the 15th. And then it'll be in the Circle from May 15th to the end of May, I think June 1st or even longer. But that will be the pop-up park, and they're just slightly different changes. But the whole focus of everything is really kind of explaining to everyone the role of native plants and what options there are, and showing different stages of the plants, because obviously in this time of year, they're early in the season. So you don't get to see the full glory of, let's say, a coneflower or some of the bee balms or different plants. But we want to show you what they start out like, and we show you pictures of what they're going to be in their full glory come the spring, the fall, or the winter. So each plant, we want to encourage people with biodiversity to have plants that bloom throughout the year that help our pollinators, help our butterflies, our tree, everything. So it really is a full circle that we're talking about for the pop-up native plants. But what Steve is talking about was the butterfly garden at Drexel Lodge Park. And that is additional, that's been there all along. That's a pollinator garden that's there, and that's right next to the pavilion as well. And Lori, I invite you to look at the master plan for the Newtown Square Meadow Preserve. It's online and it's phenomenal. It shows you the full vision of what we hope to develop at Newtown Square Meadow Preserve. But that is, just you'll be in awe when you see that plan.
Yes, I'm very familiar with it, Sheila, but thank you. Yes, it's quite comprehensive.
So I would like to add just a few things. There are people who are members of EAC as well as Newtown Square and Bloom who want to see an expanded pollinator garden, and that's Cindy Mahalo and Janet Gravanis, and to a degree Janet Elliott. And we have not looked, we being the Newtown Square and Bloom committee, has not looked at the state of the butterfly garden at all this year, because we were thinking that some of the leftover plants, it could be that after the pop-up gardens are finished, whenever that is, some of the pollinators go into the Newtown Meadow Preserve, and some of them go into what's now the butterfly garden. The butterfly garden is going to need some new replanting, because every year things either die or they get it so enormous that they have to be removed. But just from our corner, we would like to see some of the pollinators go into the butterfly garden. And this is really to stimulate butterflies. We're trying to get the monarch butterfly in particular, but other butterflies, as they go up and down the East Coast, they need landing patches. And the butterfly garden at the Drexel Lodge Park could be one, but there could also be another one, which would be more like for bees as well. And that was where the bee box would go. And that could be in Newtown Meadow Preserve. And that could sort of give people like yourself, Lori, who live right near the Meadow Preserve, the idea of what it could become if we if we ever, did all of it, so to speak. I mean, I think it could be it could model.
Right.
Last night there was an interesting call. Mike McGraw, the biologist, did a phenomenal talk. And if any of you have opportunity, it is on the Township's YouTube station, and they recorded it. But it was a perspective of the garden. And Mike actually suggested last night, Paul, that we remove the butterfly bush from the butterfly garden.
It's fine with me. I mean, he asked me that 3 months ago, and I said, "Do it. Go away. Take it away." So.
Yeah, he's suggesting that, and maybe Wade, you could ask George about that. But he's saying that that's classified now as invasive, and it's really not helpful to what we're looking at.
We removed one, or Mike cut one back while he was there that day. The others are there. So the next time I'm there, I'll cut it back.
So these, or you could just as well remove it, Wade, because
okay, I'll just pull them out.
Right, because the bushes the pop-up garden bushes, which are pollinators, there's many, like Steve was saying, there's just an awful lot of plant specimens. And I think we have enough to go in 2 different directions. I mean, and the butterfly garden needs to be accurate. It should not have invasives that are not native in it.
No. Okay.
Yeah, and I will say this, I suspect that whatever we have today, there's going to come a point that we've got to get it in the ground so that we keep it.
Right.
And we may need to add even more for what we're doing. I don't know that we'll do it quite as large, but I think we're going to add more, because if we come back and do the one, keep basically a second garden over at St. Albans Circle area, and have another one back here at the Township building to help the library, we may be looking at, I think we're going to need more plant. And so it just may be that we have enough to do even 3 areas before we're all said and done.
Great.
All right, so I guess we're done.
I just had one issue, Wade. There's a Walk 15 class, which is put on by Marple Newtown Recreation at the park every Wednesday morning. And I know this is an issue that George is aware of, but just so that Parks and Rec is, we're having some issues with a homeless woman who's been there during situations. And I think the class is just kind of, we want to respect the dignity of the person and not trying to interfere. But I just wanted to let Parks and Rec know about that situation. And I know Marple Newtown Rec is aware of it. And I think the class is just proceeding with it without, upsetting the woman. And I just wanted to let everyone know that that's kind of the situation that's going on. And I understand from other people, those individuals have tried to help this poor woman, but I don't think she wants to take the help. But just so that we are aware of it. And the class, the Walk 15 class, is just kind of respecting her space and allowing the class to go on separately.
Okay.
Where's that class take place?
That is at the pavilion at the Drexel Lodge Park on a Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock.
That's Richie now.
Yep, Rich, yep.
Lori has her hand raised again.
I do, yes. I had one more question along the same lines as yoga in the park. Is there any plan to have a pickleball court installed in any of these parks? I know that's something that's really on the rise. I know at Liseter we have really pursued it, and it's really taken off. And I just wondered if there were any public parks or any plans to have pickleball available to the residents in Newtown Square.
It's something that's come up a lot. Go ahead, Steve. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I would say from the staff's perspective, we're aware of the need. What we haven't found is the right location yet. Okay. And we feel like we would probably need to put in at least 2 courts to make it really work well. So one of the challenges we have is just where's the right space to put it. We think it would probably end up being down at Brookside, but we're not 100% sure on that. Just based on size, just based on space, and where we would be able to come up with what we're doing. There's another possibility maybe at Drexel Lodge, but Drexel Lodge we're moving more on the backside of that to keep it more nature oriented. So I'm thinking that we're probably looking ever at Brookside. There is a possibility of one other place that George and I've talked about that we've acquired within the last year or so, that we're going to do some park area. I just don't know if it would be feasible for pickleball yet. That's what we just have to figure out.
Okay, thank you.
It's a great idea. We believe it would go really well. I believe it would be used probably about as much as the basketball courts if we got it set up, because I know that a lot of, I'm going to say this and I don't mean to offend anybody if you take it this way, but those of us that are more middle age, it's a sport that's really speaks to that age group pretty well. I've seen it. I mean, you have some younger folks doing it, but it's a good sport for that group. And I know pickleball groups that are running, 5, 6 courts, 7 courts at a time, so the need is great when you do put it in.
And also St. Albans Swim Club does have a pickleball league and a court. They themselves have a very active pickleball community as well. St. Albans Swim Club.
Yeah, but you have to be a member there, correct? Yeah.
So is a pickleball, is that like half court of a tennis court? Is it that about?
Yes, it's a lot. It's a badminton court size.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have 4 of them at Liseter, and it's really taken off here, and I know it's becoming very popular.
Yeah.
So I just wondered if the township was considering something.
When we did our strategic plan survey, it's almost 2 years ago now. But when we did that, pickleball was actually one of the things that came up along with bocce. It is something I've even looked at, is there a way to maybe do some multi-purpose courts that could be basketball part of the day, pickleball doing those kind of things.
Yeah.
But there's some issues of safety with some of that, just because of what needs to be put in the ground for each one of those. So, but we're still looking at it and trying to figure out what's the right way to go.
Okay, thank you.
Right, so does anyone else have anything? But I guess we're good until next month. So I'll send whatever I have to you, Caitlin, and I'll send something to the group before I send it to the school, and then Steve as well.
Yeah, and so just real quick, I just want to make sure I have my right list here. I'm looking at getting the electronic sign at Drexel Lodge for at least 2 events, starting the yoga and the concert. I'm going to work with George on financing for the signs, but somebody's going to get back to me with specific dollar amounts. I know we need at least 40 for the one, and it looks like about 125 for the 5. So I have that down. We're working on some Facebook posting kind of things that need to still be done. And that's for all of those. Oh, and then I'm working on, if you'll get me whatever you want for the farmer's market that you want printed, then I can get that for you. And I'll take care of that. And I will take care of trying to get the larger, the 1,000-word pictures of our Greer Park, so we get that out there.
So I guess we're adjourned.
Okay.
Everyone come out and be sure to do a pop-up garden this week if you can, and promote it with your friends. And we have Facebook. I know Leonard is going to be sharing something tonight, so please share it with everyone. It's a really big thing in the community.
Thank you all.